Hi, my name is Andy Hayden and I'm a third-year medical student at St. Louis University. Now back in December, a group of students and I presented MedLaunch at the Board of Trustees meeting. Now in a nutshell, MedLaunch is a biomedical incubator and we are created for and entirely led by SLU students. So what we do is we start with problems, and these problems are submitted by SLU care physicians. And every fall, interdisciplinary student teams form around these problems, and the goal is for each of these teams to develop a solution and a business model in 7 months. Now I say interdisciplinary. These students come from across St. Louis University. They come from the School of Medicine, the John Cook School of Business, and the Parks College of Engineering, Aviation, and Technology. Now for any startup to develop a medical solution and a business model in 7 months, that's no easy task. But MedLaunch, we've developed a program. We provide these teams access to advisors and mentors, to funding, and to legal resources to help them meet that goal. Now every spring we have an event called Demo Day, and this is an opportunity for these teams to showcase what they've created to the community. What you're about to see is the first cohort of MedLaunch teams that have come through the MedLaunch program, and we're really proud of what they've accomplished this year. We hope you enjoy. So we'd like to thank the St. Louis University Board of Trustees and the SLU administration. We couldn't have done it without your help this year. And we hope that going forward, we continue to embody the mission and the values of St. Louis University. Enjoy.
Wow, it's such an honor to be, I guess, in the juror's box of some unbelievable names. I want to thank you guys all for coming. It's really an honor for you all to be here and supporting us. And so, if I can work technology as well, here we are. So whether you're like me, you're here for school or work, not been here super long, or you've been born and raised here in St. Louis, you know a thing or two about the St. Louis Cardinals. Lou Brock should be a name that's familiar to you. He is an amazing athlete, Hall of Famer for the Cardinals. He leads the record in the National League stolen bases, 938, and ended his career with over 3,000 hits. Absolutely unbelievable athlete. Now, late last year, we heard of an unfortunate event. He lost part of his left leg to a diabetic foot ulcer infection, which really is the epitome, the thing that we're trying to fix with diabetic foot ulcers. Now, I was shocked. You would think a professional athlete would really be on top of this thing, but Lou, like 30 million other American diabetics, has a long list of things that they need to worry about and take care of. And there's this disconnect between the at-home care and the care at the physician's office. And we're trying to fix that, bridge that gap with the Pedicare. What we've done is we've created an in-home monitoring device. This device protects patients with diabetes from diabetic foot ulcers. In less than 30 seconds, the patient will place their feet on the device. The device very quickly analyzes the feet and gives some kind of feedback, whether it's no issue whatsoever or there is a risk for an ulcer formation before you can physically see the ulcer. Now, this notification will go not only to the patient, but to their physician as well, so that we can very quickly intervene and prevent these diabetic foot ulcers. Using twice a week, we can prevent 40 to 85% of these diabetic foot amputations. It's been a crazy 6.5, 7 months. We, like the MedLaunch exec, didn't really exactly know what we were getting ourselves into, but we are excited about the opportunity, and I've learned such an incredible amount, as well as my teammates. Here we are today. We're moving forward with some new capital from SLU's Pitch and Catch competition to hopefully start a clinical study to really prove the clinical efficacy of our device. And hopefully in the next couple of years, once our device has been proven, it's gained some market traction, we can see it on the market here in the next 3 to 5 years. Again, I really wouldn't be here today without the help of my amazing team from all over the university, Parks, the med school, even SLU High representatives who are working to learn as much as they can in the entrepreneurship scene. I'd also like to thank MedLaunch. Obviously, their support, SLU has been extremely helpful as well. Our physician advisors have given us great guidance and feedback. And finally, all our families and friends who have really pushed us these last 6 months to achieve more and to really think outside of that very simple SLU bubble. Once again, my name is Nico. Thank you so much. We are the Pedicare team looking to solve diabetics' foot ulcers, both not only for their feet, but to improve their health as well. Thank you.
Great job, Nico. Before I start, I'd like to thank MedLaunch and St. Louis University. Thank you for all the hard work each of you has put in to let us be here today. Supplemental oxygen therapy is one of the most common treatments in hospitals in the United States. There are 900,000 hospital beds in the US, and a method for delivering supplemental oxygen is standard in each one of these patient rooms. Auto2 is a device that is going to automate the process of delivering oxygen to these patients. The current method of supplemental oxygen delivery is incredibly inefficient. There are nearly 3 million patients admitted each year in the United States for respiratory-related chief complaints alone. These patients spend an average of 4.5 days in the hospital. It costs hospitals an average of $2,000 a day just to provide care for these patients. The way a hospital is reimbursed, they get a flat fee to take care of this patient. So any savings that they're able to incur, such as reducing length of stay, results in savings for them and ultimately profit. Our device, by automating the delivery of oxygen and weaning off of oxygen, can reduce patient length of stay about 7.5%. If applied to these nearly 3 million patients, this can result in a $1.9 billion savings across the United States. How does our device function? It functions like a thermostat. A member of the healthcare team, either a nurse, respiratory therapist, or physician, sets a high and low value for a patient's oxygen saturation. The device then automatically maintains the patient in that range, keeping the patient's safety at the highest priority and reducing alarm fatigue, since the patient's sats no longer drop, causing nurses, physicians, and the rest of the team to rush to the patient's room. The second main feature of our device is automating weaning off of oxygen. We're on the 12th floor right now. You can imagine that being put on supplemental oxygen is like being at a high level in the building. So if you're on 12 liters of oxygen per minute, you can think of it like being on this floor. We can't just exit the building right now in the same way that we can't just cut somebody off of supplemental oxygen. In either situation, we need to incrementally decrease the level that the patient is on prior to discharge. By automatically weaning the patient off of oxygen, we can save a significant amount of time. So currently, a nurse has an average of 6 patients at one time on an average medical floor. And to wean the patient, they might only see them once every 4 hours. So if you can imagine 12 trips, that's a long time. So the weaning process can account for 1/4 of the patient's stay, and automation can reduce that by 30%, resulting in a 7.5% reduction in length of stay. So in summary, what our device will do is maintain patient oxygen saturation in a target range, which will improve patient safety and reduce alarm fatigue, and it will automatically wean the patient off of oxygen, which will get the patients home sooner, as well as reducing costs to the hospital. Thanks to MedLaunch, we've had the opportunity to speak with a great number of people. Our user research has included speaking to over 40 nurses and respiratory therapists who overwhelmingly said that this device will reduce the amount of time spent weaning the patient, it will reduce the patient's length of stay, and it will improve the amount of time that they have available to do other tasks. We've protected the novelty of our device with a provisional patent, and the next steps are refining our prototype, charting the path to FDA clinical trials, and market entry. We've assembled a team of talented medical, engineering, and business students and are excited to take the next steps forward. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Joe Martin. I'm a senior at SLU, and I'm one of 2 co-team leaders for Erythrocyte. I'm co-teaming it with Jacob Hauenstein. Maybe Jacob, if you raise your hand or stand up for a second. For the past year, we've developed a prototype for a surgical blood loss monitor. Currently in hospitals, there is no standardized device to track a patient's blood loss during surgery. Instead, surgical teams rely on visual estimation methods to try to track how much bleeding is occurring during a procedure. Unfortunately, as you can imagine, studies have shown that these visual guesses of estimated blood loss, or EBL, can be highly inaccurate. This is a grave concern because blood loss is the #1 killer of patients in the hospital, when they're in the operating room, And the patients at the highest risk are those who are young children, especially babies, mothers giving birth and experiencing postpartum hemorrhage, and the elderly and people whose bodies are already compromised and less able to cope with the stress of blood loss. So you may know the way to treat blood loss during surgery is to transfuse new blood into the patient in order to replace what's been lost. But research is showing that up to 60% of blood transfusions right now are unwarranted because blood loss has been overestimated. In these cases, the patient's been unnecessarily exposed to the risk of an allergic reaction to, overload from, or infection from that blood transfusion, which is essentially a mini organ transplant. So we developed erythrocyte for the express purpose of combating this costly and deadly information gap in surgery. I'd like to mention, too, that blood transfusions, even though the patient may not suffer side effects every time, blood transfusions are extremely expensive. They cost up to $1,500 per unit transfused, and it's the most commonly billed medical procedure in America, adding up to $15 billion per year in additional healthcare costs. So we built erythrocyte to combat this problem. Erythrocyte is very exciting. It's a surgical blood loss monitor and consists of wireless smart sensors embedded in the existing fluid, waste, and input receptacles that are already used in the operating room. So as the fluids are transferred through the surgical field and into these different points, in and out of these different points, the sensors detect and measure blood loss, and then a proprietary algorithm integrates that data and rolls out a continuous count of blood loss for the surgeon and the operating team to see in real time. I'd like to mention, too, that this system integrates seamlessly with existing surgical workflows by its very nature because we're using the platform that's already existing in surgery. So the surgeries can go about their normal procedures. The procedure goes about in a very standard fashion, but now behind the scenes, there's a device keeping track. There's an objective measurement system so that doctors and surgical teams don't have to rely on subjective guesses. I'd like to talk about the value that this product creates, both for patients and providers alike. Number one is it enhances the value of surgical decision-making. Having real-time objective evidence in the operating room is key to lowering response times to life-threatening bleeding events. Number two is the conservation of healthcare resources. An accurate estimate of blood that's been lost allows for the optimization of transfusion, and that way you minimize risk to the patient and reduce costs. And lastly is quality assurance. In addition to tracking blood loss, our device also tracks the amount of sponges that are being used by the surgical team. On top of that, the system archives all the data so that it can be analyzed and then presented as a key quality metric for improvement initiatives and quality reporting. I have to acknowledge our awesome team as well. As you saw Jacob Hauenstein earlier, he's been in charge of the design side. We've been co-piloting this project. Jacob's one of the best innovators and most resourceful troubleshooters that I've ever seen in action. Lauren Germany, we're also lucky to have. She's a second-year medical student. A lot of what we're saying today, we can corroborate because of her hours of research and her hours spent in the operating room observing. And then last but not least, Luke Reichold has been instrumental in bringing us from from concept to prototype because of his formidable software skills. We're also extremely thankful to the physicians who've been on our team. Number one is Dr. Alexander Lin, who's championed our project and guided us through the development from the beginning. We're also lucky to have Dr. Rich Buchholz and Dr. James DeBoard, who are a neurosurgeon and pediatric anesthesiologist, respectively, who have rounded out a great top-class, all-star cast of advisors. In closing, I'd like to leave you with a metaphor. Imagine you're on a transatlantic flight, but the airplane that you're flying on has no working fuel gauge. So at any given time, the pilot can only guess as to how much fuel is left in the tank. Would you or your loved ones want to fly on this plane where there's the risk of crashing in the ocean on an empty tank, or you're going to have to require multiple daring refueling episodes in midair Dr. Lin and surgeons that we've talked to describe surgery as this transatlantic flight on a plane with no fuel gauge. We're building erythrocyte to be just that, a smart fuel gauge, but it's for your fuel, your life's fuel, your lifeblood, your body's most precious liquid resource. We think that that's going to make surgery smarter and patients safer. And thank you again for your time. And if you haven't seen our demo, please do.
All right, hi, I'm Allison May. I'm part of LapraZip. So I just want to start off by saying thank you to MedLaunch and all of you for being here. So hysterectomies are the second most common procedure for women worldwide. Over 400,000 of these are done in the United States each year. Traditionally and most commonly, the surgery is done through a large incision in the abdomen. However, there is a better way, and that's through laparoscopic surgery, which is minimally invasive. Minimally invasive surgery has been proven in multiple studies to cause less bleeding, less pain, and overall improved outcomes for women. However, despite all this evidence, only about 25% of hysterectomies right now are being done laparoscopically. And this is because it takes more time and it's very challenging. The main barrier to this is the closure of the vaginal cuff. This is just a small part of the procedure, but it takes about 35 minutes to do, and it's very difficult. And for this reason, a lot of surgeons don't do laparoscopic procedures. So clearly there's a need for a better solution, and that's why we came up with LapraZip. It's a quick, easy to use, and safe device that will laparoscopically close the vaginal cuff in under 5 minutes. This allows women having this procedure to have drastically improved outcomes and quality of life. Compared to open abdominal surgeries, this will save $2,000 per procedure. It causes a 2-day shorter stay in the hospital, 15-day quicker return to work for the patient. So our team consists of 3 medical students, a PhD engineering student, and a business student, as well as several advisors, including Dr. Young, who was the one who brought this idea to our attention. And the secret is in our patent-pending clip and clip applicator system. So the clip that you can see up here is fully absorbable. It's cinchable, sort of like a zip tie. It sits in the applicator. The 3 arms of the applicator allow it to grab the tissue. And then a needle from the applicator drives the clip through the tissue and through the ring at the bottom, locking it in place. This is what it will look like when the cuff is closed. So because this is a very large market and a very big problem, we do have competition. Some competitors like VLoc have found a way to secure the stitch so that the surgeons don't have to tie knots laparoscopically. Other competitors like EndoStitch have found a way to place the stitch so that the surgeon doesn't have to actually place the stitch. However, none of them do both. So none of them are actually solving the problem of the technical challenge and the time that it takes. LapraZip is the only device that will actually place the stitch and secure it. And in addition, we provide many other benefits, such as the ability to grasp the tissue, our adjustable clip, the whole thing is absorbable, and our device is disposable. This is at an estimated cost of $1,000, which is well within the price range of our competitors. So with the current market of about 25% of these procedures being done laparoscopically, this leaves 300,000 women each year that could potentially have a better, less invasive surgery. Our aim with LapraZip is to take at least 35% of the abdominal market and move them to laparoscopic using our tool. This would result in 105,000 more procedures being done laparoscopically each year, or $105 million in revenue. Once we gain more traction in the market, we hope to move this to at least 75%. And that's just in the United States alone. So globally, millions of hysterectomies are done each year. This has potential for LapraZip to make a huge impact on women's health and improve outcomes for everyone around the world. So with the help of MedLaunch and our advisors, we have finalized our design, filed our provisional patent, and now we're working on getting more customer feedback, and we'll be gaining investments in order to get our laboratory research done for FDA approval, file our final patent, and then eventually launch our product into the market. So So that's LapraZip, and thank you very much.